Hi, I'm just reaming the bushes on this Daimler Dart front suspension wishbone. This is the lower wishbone, and there's two that sit side by side, such as that. And in between the two is a trunnion, brass trunnion with a thread in it, and this piece through the sides. And the idea is that these steel spigots stick into these bronze bushes. And if you can see the bush in there, but I've pressed those in. The old ones look like that, and I see they're actually split, but they simply press in. They're a pretty tight fit, because once they're pressed in, they're not necessarily round, and they're certainly not the right size. This spigot on here is 5/8 basically, so it comes up at 0.62, 623 or so on here. There's obviously some kind of fit dimension for a 5/8 running fit. Anyway, so basically I need to ream out this bush, or the two bushes, so that they're a good fit onto here and that will slide properly. There's a grease nipple on here, and there's a hole in the bushes, which obviously needs to line up with the grease nipple, so that the grease can get in, and there's actually a spiral groove in the bush to allow the grease to spread out. Anyway, so what I need to do is to use a reamer. I'm using an adjustable reamer, which I actually got off eBay for about 12 quid, something like that. And they're pretty simple really. There's a nut at either end, one there and one there, and a number of blades. And this one's got, how many is it? Is it 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I think 6 blades. And the blades running grooves in this central threaded rod, and the grooves are tapered, and the blades are tapered as well, and the blades are trapped in the grooves between these two nuts. So if I simply slacken off this top nut and tighten up the bottom one, half a turn or so, maybe 3/4 of a turn, that effectively slides the blades up a fraction in the grooves, and hence up the taper, so they're actually slightly wider now than they were before I made that adjustment. So just checking that, I think I'm still well below the size of the trunnion bar itself. So I'm just steadily opening out this bush little by little, trying to make sure it's straight, it doesn't go in crooked, and just ease it in, a bit of oil. Of course it's only bronze, so it cuts quite easily, but it will be quite easy to get it cocked over and dig in, which obviously you don't want to do. Just easing it in gently, back and forth, just to ease it through and break the chips slightly. But it cuts pretty well. So it's getting easier all the time. When I first went in, it was far from round, and you could feel the step in the bush where the bush had been come together and pressed. It obviously cobbled over slightly, so I had to cut through the step in the bush as well to even that out. But it's looking better all the time. That's fine. Just ease it back out again. Obviously I don't want to pull it out without turning it, otherwise it'll just leave a groove. And yes, it's taken off quite a lot. There's lots of bronze filings in there. So we're getting there. Quite close now. See, it'd be a bit of a disaster to go too far. It's looking better. It's now certainly picking up on all the surface, but I don't think this is going to fit yet. No, it's still a couple of thou down. So in fact this is still, this microns is a bit dodgy because it doesn't zero properly, but yeah, that's about 625, which is where it should be. It's just a thou down on that, I would say. And this is, yeah, it's still slightly looser. Let's try and measure that. Yeah, so it's good. 15 thou down. So I will tweak it up a bit. Something about, say, probably just over half a turn each time I run it through the bearing. Just check that again. Yeah. Turn that in. Again, try to keep it parallel. A splash of oil. Just easing it backwards and forwards seems to help keep it parallel. Certainly at the start. There we go. Running it right in, or relatively far in. So I don't suppose these blades are absolutely parallel. So I guess running it part way through could leave a tapered ball. There we go. It's taken off quite a lot. See all those shavings. So the ball's looking pretty good. You can see the, maybe you can't see the spiral groove, but running from, there's actually a cross in effect from the grease nipple, and then spiraling down this way, and there's one up the top side and the same on the other side. So let's try it in there. I don't think it will fit still. It's getting very close. But there we go. Actually, it does actually fit, maybe. I think it does just, but it's very snug. But another whisker off with the reamer, maybe not even adjusting it this time. Might just be enough to Run it right through this time. So I wonder if that's been enough just to ease a bit more off there. Ooh, not quite. Very, very close now. I think I will just put another quarter turn or so maybe on here. That should be enough, I thought. Whoops. Guess I could measure again, couldn't I? Yeah, that's pretty much bang on. So we'll just run that through. Put the tap wrench back on. There we go. A bit more oil. Backwards to get it into the bore. There we go. That's hardly taking anything off at all now, but it should be enough, I reckon. Just easing it back out again. Right. Get those bits of shavings off so they don't wedge into the bore and give me a false idea of what's going on. That's better. Oh, look at that, perfect. Because it needs, I guess, to be need a bit of clearance to give the grease a chance to work, but obviously not too much. It's actually quite tight at one end for some reason. So again, it's obviously not parallel, not quite anyway. Assuming that this steel is parallel. So just run that all the way through this time. I guess I could run this in from the other end, which might not be a bad idea. Yeah, because it just gets a bit tight there. Right. Ah, yes. That's very nice. That's good enough, I would say. And if you can hear that, there is actually a very slight wobble there, which is, I would say, is about right. So you need to, a few tenths of a thou gap to give the grease chance to spread out and do its job, rather than having metal to metal. But no, that's really good. So there you go. Reaming the wishbone bush on a Daimler Dart. So what I'll do before put it back on the car, apart from clearing up generally, is to pump some grease through the grease nipple, just to make sure that that's clear and any shavings are pushed out of the grease passageway, so there's nothing trapped in there. It's going to get wedged in the bearing when it's all reassembled. Good. So the other challenge is to get the bushes in the other end, which are originally rubber, silent block rubber, but I'm going to replace them with the more modern polyurethane bushes, such as this. Well, they're dead easy to put in compared to the old rubber ones. I've just had to replace the crush tube with a stainless steel version, which I made up, but that should be no problem. It just fits in that end. Good. For anybody that's wondering, by the way, the trunnion bush is similar to, I think, on some of the TRs were the same. I'd say certainly the Daimler. This trunnion block, is brass and has a machined screw thread in there with a groove up the side to allow the grease to pass up and to lubricate the length of the thread. But it's basically the trunnion just fits onto the bottom of the vertical link of the front suspension. So it just winds on there right up to the top pretty much, maybe back a turn or half a turn. And when it's on the car, so that's the vertical link, there's the two, let's put this down a minute, this threads right up. There's actually a rubber washer or a rubber seal fits on the top there, and the steering stop screws into that lug there. So once you've got it all the way on, so that's as far as it goes, so you can back a half a turn. So the steering limit screws in there and then knocks against this to stop you turning the wheel too far. There's a stub axle with a taper that fits through here. In fact, that's the stub axle. I'm replacing this one because it's had the inner taper roller bearing inner race has been spinning on the stub axle, so that's actually smaller than it should be because it's been worn down. So I've got a new one of those on the way. That also fits in there. There's the front caliper bolts fit on here, so the front caliper is on here, and this is just the steering arm. These two drillings here and tapped holes. Actually, no, they're not tapped, they're plain holes. Anyway, so the steering arm fits on there, and there you go. So there's a ball joint on the top, which looks something like that. Again, tapered, and just tightens into there. So you've got a ball swivel at the top, and this rather bizarre brass threaded trunnion arrangement on the bottom. I believe it's similar to a lot of the Triumphs at the time, back in the 60s and 50s. So, but so this particular one is a Daimler Dart. Good.